All right, third hour of Clay and Buck kicks off now. As you know, Clay had to run to a flight, so it's just the Buckster solo for this hour. Clay will be back with us tomorrow. Joining me right now, our friend Julie Kelly. Declassified is her Substack. She's done so much fantastic work on the issue of pardons for J6 justice-involved individuals. This is the term the left uses for actual criminals, so I guess we'll find something else for them. Some people say political prisoners, depends. Julie, appreciate you being with us. I want to get into some of the appointees, if I can, here with you for a second. I'm sure you're following this closely. I know you know some of these individuals. What are you thinking? I from the tea leaf reading that I can do from the various senators and statements and things they've put out, it seems like Pete is rallying up on Capitol Hill, getting more senators to come to his side. And I would put the likelihood of his confirmation going higher today than certainly it seemed to be yesterday.
Sure, that sounds about right, Buck. You just can't allow the caving in to these hit jobs, these character assassination attempts by the media and Democrats, and it appears some Republicans are behind this as well. So by sticking with Pete's nomination, the president and everyone else on this side demonstrates that those Brett Kavanaugh days are over, and it simply will not be tolerated. Because if this nomination for somehow goes south, either maybe at the hands of a group of Republican senators who don't want the military reformed, who want to keep pumping billions of dollars into Ukraine and other places, to keep the laundering machine of military defense contracts going, then that will be a troublesome sign. So I think that it was a good sign today that the president spoke out, and also Pete himself. So your analysis is probably spot on right there.
Yeah, we'll continue to follow it. I just feel like we could get more updates while we're here on air in this hour. Let's transition to what's going on with the J6 pardons that everyone's hoping are going to be coming. I think it will be worthwhile, Julie, for you to remind everybody of, in the aftermath of the Hunter Biden pardon, for example, and there was really no dispute over the facts. Hunter Biden committed many, many crimes, and they tried to make it go away, or they tried to make it go away the first time, and then they finally made it go away with the presidential pardon the second time. And they were looking the other way the whole time because he was a protected Democrat. The Democrats have started to say makes it seem like there's even more of a leeway. I don't know if Trump needs it, obviously, but more of a leeway for Trump to pardon J6 individuals. How do you see that? And do they feel like, wow, this is really, helping show the two-tier justice system that we've been subjected to?
Exactly. And I do have a piece up at my Substack, Declassified with Julie Kelly, that talks about pardoning all January 6th defendants, regardless of their charges or their convictions, because unlike the kid glove handling of Hunter Biden, who was never subjected to a pre-dawn armed raid by the counterterrorism task force like all these J6ers are. I know you saw the Ring camera video I just posted the other night of an FBI SWAT raid at 6 o'clock in the morning, just this past October, of a J6 subject. So Hunter Biden wasn't subjected to the torment the J6ers, especially those on non-existent charges, right, concocted charges. He was handled with kid gloves the entire process. He did not face the true criminal charges that he should have, starting with the violations. But I do think, Buck, it is a gift to the president and to J6 defendants, because it has created momentum for a blanket amnesty for J6ers, regardless of their accusations against them. So to that point, I think it's helpful because there is internal and external debate as to what a pardon for J6ers look like. Of course, the easy, low-hanging fruit, the 900 or so who have been charged with misdemeanors, the 4 common misdemeanors that are not violent, that have never been used in this capacity or way previously and never will again. So it's easy to pardon those, but there is some dispute about how to handle those who were charged or convicted with assaulting police officers. Well, even those who were charged or convicted had to face this highly partisan, rigged legal and judicial system in Washington that you and I and Clay have been talking about for years. All of their due process rights were violated by the government, by the judges, and of course by jurors, which is why the DOJ has a 100% conviction rate before Washington, D.C. juries. Why? Because they are all Democrats who hate Donald Trump and his supporters. So from beginning to end, Buck, this has been a rigged system no American should have faced. It violates our Constitution. It violates everything that we're about. And that is why I fully support a blanket pardon. And if Joe Biden can do it for his son covering 8 years, then I think the president and his team can do it for the now almost 1,600 J6 defendants.
What are you mentioned someone who just had a SWAT team arrive recently and for J6 related offenses. What are some of the sentences that have been handed down for people for what is essentially assault on a police officer? I mean, just to give us a sense of what some of these judges have decided is fair when it comes to Trump supporters and an assault on a police officer. I have a feeling it was very different when it was BLM supporters assaulting police officers, which we all got to watch for an entire summer in 2020. But give us a sense of that.
Right. So to your point, the latter, all charges against BLM and Antifa, all federal charges were dropped by the D.C. U.S. Attorney and the Department of Justice. So anyone who was charged with assaulting police, and of course, the police were the bad guys back then. You remember that, Buck, right? There were congressional hearings by Democrats about Park Police and Secret Service and how they treated those protesters who were trying to, they burnt down part of St. John's Church across from the White House. They tried to scale the White House fence. But the bad guys in that scenario were the police officers. January 6th, they again assaulted and attacked protesters standing outside. They weren't doing anything close to what BLM and Antifa were attempting to do in 2020. Yet they received medals. They received, praise by the president. They were considered heroes, not the villains that they were just 6 months previously. But to your question, egregious sentences handed down for those accused of confrontations with police. 5, 7, 10 years in federal prison for a man named Tom Webster, a former New York City Police Department officer. He was on detail at Gracie Mansion. He's a former Marine, has never been in trouble in his life. He confronted a thug D.C. Metro police officer who repeatedly was shoving a woman down the steps outside the Capitol. He got in a confrontation with the police officer. He called him a communist, said, "You don't attack American citizens." Nonetheless, the judge only allowed the jury to see the confrontation with Mr. Webster and the D.C. police officer, not what that police officer had been doing 10 to 12 minutes previously. Thomas Webster immediately convicted, one of the first trials in Washington in the spring of 2022, sentenced to 10 years, hard time in federal prison, never had a criminal record. Now, there's nothing comparable, not only in Washington, D.C., for a case like for assault on a police officer, in the entire country. So, again, the sentences, like every other part of this prosecution, is such a double standard of justice, and it just cannot stand. And I don't think the president, in the end, will allow it to stand.
Do we have any sense, Julie, are you hearing anything from your sources and people in Trump circles that you talk to about whether we can expect some imminent action, right? Because this is the harm, especially for those incarcerated, is a day-to-day thing. It's every day. So every day after Trump takes office that nothing has happened is another day that they are suffering. Do we have any indications as to how quickly these pardons may come down, or we just don't know?
It's an issue. I think it's a priority. I know that it's a priority with the team and with the president. It's very complicated because you do have people who are in federal prison. You've got hundreds of them in prison right now on various charges or about to be sent to prison. They're not stopping this. So I think that there are very intense internal discussions as to what can be done on day one. I fully expect something will be done on day one, and then how it will proceed from there, what the proper venue is, whether it's the U.S. Attorney's Office, whether it's main justice, how the rest of those cases, convictions, and those in prison especially are handled. So, but you're right. Every day that goes on is another day that incarcerated defendant and his or her family member suffers. And I don't think that sort of suffering is something the president and his administration is going to want to prolong.
Declassified is Julie's Substack. Go subscribe. Go check it out. Julie Kelly, assuming this pardon comes down, you got to come on the show and talk to us that day about what it's like for all the individuals you've been trying to advocate for and work with up to this point. I would assume, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but I would assume there's going to be a lot of tears of joy from people who have had their lives given back to them.
It's going to be an absolutely historic moment, but also just personally, something that I think about now all the time, what this is going to mean for these people and their families. And yes, I definitely would love to come back on when that happens and any future action taken to free these political prisoners.
Julie Kelly, everybody. Julie, thank you so much.
Take care, Buck. Thanks.
The Preborn network of clinics deserves our donations all year round, not just on a week that includes Giving Tuesday. Your donation to Preborn goes towards saving the lives of unborn babies. Preborn's network of clinics provides free ultrasounds to women with unplanned pregnancies. That experience alone of meeting her unborn child and immediately bonding with that child so often makes all the difference, and that mom is so much more likely to choose life for her baby. You cannot be unaffected by these incredibly powerful individual stories, and your donations to Preborn make this possible. They rely on you, the pro-life community. They get no government funding. An ultrasound, think about this, that ultrasound could be the difference between life or death for a baby in the womb right now, costs $28. The team at Preborn saves the lives of approximately 200 babies each day of the week, and they've saved 300,000 babies' lives in the past 20 years. If you can donate that amount, $28 or even 5 times that amount, $140, you'd be contributing to saving the lives of unborn babies. It's really easy to donate. Using your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or go online to preborn.com/buck, sponsored by Preborn.